Peace, everyone. For those who know or don't know, my name is Sonia Harris, and I'm the owner of I'm Eccentric and Homegirls Club. And I'm very excited to be moderating the Better Together panel today with these amazing women. So first, before we kick this off, how's everybody feeling today? Y'all good? That's dope. I love that. So I'm glad that we're starting this conversation off, but before we kick it off, we need to know who's these amazing panelists. So Kia, you want to start it off?
What's going on, everybody? My name is Kia Marie, aka the Notorious KIA. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I'm a stylist and content creator. Brooklyn is in the house. Be in the house? Hey, that's what I hear.
Hi guys, my name is Channing Beamer. I am from Dallas, Texas, and I'm the founder of CNKDaily.com and also Shop C&K, the first Black woman-owned women's sneaker boutique in the country.
Hey everyone, I'm Jasmine Humphrey. I'm from Chicago but live in New York. I'm the director of campus and cultural engagement for LVMH.
Hi everyone, I'm Bree. I'm from Staten Island, New York, and I am a social media strategist and a designer.
Thank you, ladies. So during this breakout session, I want it to be known that this is a safe space to be seen, heard, but most of all respected, receiving all of our viewpoints. So kicking it off, Better Together. When I hear Better Together, I think of collaboration being a key driver to success and for Black women coming together to share resources, support, and knowledge, which is essential in overcoming systematic barriers and building a stronger, more empowered community. I'd love to hear from you both, Channing and Kia. What are some ways that you're seeing Black women come together to collaborate, whether as entrepreneurs, consumers, or leaders in the same industries?
Well, of course, I'm sitting next to Channing. Have to give her flowers, what she's doing with CNK Daily. We have Melissa with Kicks and Froze, Tasha with her grills, just the amazing community that they've built where Black women can feel seen when it comes to come together with sneakers, you know. I do think there are more opportunities out there for us to collaborate more. But yeah, I think that's a great start.
Yeah, I think for me personally, C&K, short for Chicks and Kicks, really originated because we didn't see ourselves in that media landscape. And I think one of the things that really propelled C&K was that community element. I think collaboration is great, but I think it has to start with that rooted community and understanding that you have like minds and like goals and like aspirations. So for us, I mean, we collabed on a docuseries, right? Sharing our stories. I think that's so important in terms of collaboration because what comes from that collaboration is always going to be rooted in that common element, that common goal.
Yeah, more on the sneaker series. Like I hosted a show called Sneaker Fiends, and we were highlighting women in sneaker culture. I think oftentimes the industry in general is very gate-kept, or you only really hear certain voices and certain, names are thrown out there. So it's really important for us to come together and highlight women that are often overlooked, specifically Black women in the space. It was such an amazing experience. Not only was I talent, but I really got to collaborate with the other Black women to produce, to come up with show ideas, and really had that input. So it was impactful. People today still come up to me and ask me when season 2 is coming, but we need investors, and the network is not the network anymore. So like I do want to continue doing it. So like I feel like it is important for us to continue to highlight women in these spaces because we set the trends, and we'll talk about that more in this conversation. But yeah, it's important for sure.
I love that. So let me go to Bree. Bree, what is an example that you can give of a meaningful collaboration you've been a part of or witnessed that has helped elevate Black women in the industry?
Okay, so the first that comes to mind is definitely I was able to get a wonderful opportunity to be a part of the SEED program that you might have heard of. It's with Adidas. I was one of 5 Black women to enter this footwear design program, and it's crazy to like this statistically you have better chances of getting into the WNBA than you do getting into the footwear space and getting a role in that. Wow. So having that opportunity and Adidas creating that program definitely opened doors for myself and the other women on that program who are now all over the country working on silhouettes, doing products. So that was definitely the stepping stone into this space of seeing how like collaboration can really propel yourself forward. And then something that I was actually able to do, the sneaker space is so male dominated. Sorry, I'm a big sneakerhead, so I might mention sneakers a few times, but it's so male dominated, but so is the hat space. And I had an opportunity to create my own hat collection with a company called Hat Club. And so my whole direction on it was celebrating, honestly, the Black women who have laid the foundation for me. So Lil' Kim, Aaliyah, Left Eye, Missy Elliott, and creating these hats to like celebrate these women. I called it a crown for the queens of hip hop. And I was able to, you know, bring in all these women wearing fitteds, and it's not really something you see in the hat space too much. So those two moments definitely were pivotal for me, and it was just super dope to just see women be at the forefront in these spaces that were not usually celebrated in.
Definitely. We need more of that for sure. We definitely need more of that. So Bree, I also want to ask you, what are some effective ways that Black women are meaningfully and authentically represented in both front and behind the scenes?
So I feel like to answer that question, I feel like a lot of times there's people tend to create the narrative for us, and I think that's the disconnect. I think in order to have these spaces where we're being represented on the front end and the back end, like it has to start that way, and it usually doesn't. It's always backwards. So I think a lot of times people like to tell our story for us. And that's where everything kind of gets lost and misconstrued. So the best way to, you know, be meaningful and actually authentically represent us is to start with us. We always talk about how you want a seat at the table, and like we deserve that, and rightfully so. But that should be a standard, you know, it shouldn't be something we have to ask for. And it's like, that's the common theme. So I think in order to do that is like we need women in leadership to set that example. We need women in leadership, we need mentors, but also we need more authentic storytelling. And to my point of like, all the time I see like campaigns and like all these things, and it's like, it's not coming from us, you know? And we actually discussed it, but you know, like we're on these mood boards, we're here and there, but we're not in the rooms that we're on the mood boards. And so it's like, there's that big disconnect. So I think in order to properly represent us on the front end and on the back end is to start with us and let us kind of speak for ourselves and create the narrative for ourselves instead of having people write it for us.
Jasmine, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
I definitely agree with everything that she said. You know, I think the one thing I might add is, you know, from early on, like looking at what's happening so that we can get into those leadership spaces, starting with classrooms as early as, you know, middle school and high school, like empowering young girls from an early age and exposing them to what does it take to get, you know, to those corporate rooms. I feel like that, you know, right now in this age of social media, everybody wants to be talent, but in order to also be, you know, in a power position from the inside on at some of these corporations, you also need to know, okay, how do I get in that room? And I don't feel like we talk a lot about like how to make it into those spaces. So giving more exposure to young girls all the way through college so that they can know these are viable opportunities that they can pursue.
Thank you for that. So I want to see something real quick. Raise your hands if you've been told no, whether it's personally or professionally in your career or goals. Look at that. Like all of us. All of us. I know I have multiple times. So Jasmine, have you also went through this? And how did you overcome the challenge of facing rejection or being told no in your industry? And what helped you to keep moving forward?
Sure. So the current employer that I work for, prior to this role, I was in PR. And if you know in PR, like you're constantly being stretched to think creatively of how can you have different communication strategies to get your ideas across. And my old boss actually told me, you know, always live by the rules of three. So I never walk into the room with just one idea. Like you always need to have your back pocket full of two to three different innovative ways so that, you know, you have more chance of an opportunity landing versus kind of being disappointed if what you initially thought doesn't come to fruition. So always try to have 2 to 3 ideas that you can bring to the table.
Shannon, you have any viewpoints on this?
All right, I'm gonna keep it a book. So, yes, Shop C&K is a very real thing, and we are building something that does not exist. okay? And being a first is always hard, right? You're gonna hear no, you're gonna have to get tough skin, but I'm gonna keep it really real with you. It gets disappointing and it gets disheartening when you're putting your all into something. For us, we're building this store, and you need money, you need investors, and I have heard no so many times. This is a great idea, but no, this is a great idea, I'll follow up with you, right? You have to get to a point where you believe that you are doing something that matters more than yourself. And so one thing that I will say, the no's get a little bit easier to accept when what you are building is rooted in serving other people. When you know that somebody needs this idea that is in your head, that you can't stop thinking about, that you wake up from your sleep thinking about, that's what continues to propel you, that's what continues to propel me through the L's. Because you're gonna take them, you're gonna get tossed and you're gonna get turned. It is not sunny all the time. I have more valleys than I do peaks. But the thing that does keep me going is the fact that I believe that my Creator gave me this idea and gave me this insight so that I could go and do it, and has given me the opportunities and the connections and the people around me who will help me. We can't do anything alone, bro. Nothing worthwhile. This store coming to fruition will not be because of just me at all. And I think that's one thing you really have to think about. How am I including other people in this dream? Where do other people fit in this dream? Because at the end of the day, if the only thing that benefits, the only person that benefits from your dream coming to fruition is you, you're doing it wrong.
All right, so leading to my next question, with limited access to resources and mentorship opportunities, it's often a struggle to find the guidance needed to advance in careers within industries such as fashion and footwear. I'd love to hear more from you, Channing, as well as you, Jasmine, on the advice you have with seeking out mentorship and networking opportunities, and what can be done to make these resources more accessible and inclusive.
All right, so mentors matter. Mentors are a staple. One thing that I will say, though, is that I believe as Black women, we are over-mentored and underfunded. We are over-mentored and underfunded. Write us a check. But that being said, mentorship is invaluable. You are starting your journey by being here. By being here, by being receptive, by wanting to learn, by wanting to get out of your comfort zone and go say hi to somebody you don't know. You are starting now in building your network. And I think that's amazing. I think you can't shirk the impact of just showing up, right? And so one thing I will say, just personal story, last year was my first year at Black Footwear Forum. I was terrified. I was coming in, I was like, I don't know nobody, I'm here by myself. But I met some amazing Black women, and they are all sitting in that row right there. They are phenomenal women. They are running brands and they are running companies, and they embraced me and they were so kind to me, and we went out to dinner, and I have built friendships with people who want to see me win and I want to see them win, and we pour into each other. That in and of itself sets you up for success because you are building genuine relationships, not based on what you can get, but based on how you can connect, how you can help each other. I think Issa Rae said, don't build up, build out. There's always somebody around you who needs what you have and will receive or will be able to give what you need, right? And so look around you. Try to look into your immediate network and see who you can help. And I promise you, it will come back to you tenfold.
I guess I just have two things to add. One, I think, oftentimes when I'm speaking with young people about mentorship, I think the idea is to instinctively go straight to wanting to be mentored by someone that's all the way at the top and an executive. And I think that's great. You definitely want to have experience, insights, but also you can learn a lot from your peers who are oftentimes more accessible. So don't shy yourself away from or knock yourself, short of learning from your peers, because oftentimes when you're looking to make a transition into something, you can learn from another manager or another director in another role. And then lastly, by show of hands, how many of you do have mentors or have had a mentor? Now, how many of you have had a sponsor or have a sponsor? Less hands. I always think to her point about, being over mentored, we're not over sponsored, right? And that was something that really mattered to me in my career, was making sure that while I have people who are, giving me the insight, that I equally have just as many people speaking on my behalf in rooms that I'm not present in, and that's the role of a sponsor. So I would encourage you, if you have not identified who that sponsor could be, try to get you a sponsor and add that to your your trusted council of individuals advocating on you.
Thank you. All right, guys, this is where it's about to get real. Nah, this is going deeper. Black women have long influenced the visual identity and style of major corporations and brands with our creativity and cultural expression, often reflected on mood boards and marketing campaigns, yet rarely receive the recognition or credit for our impact. How do you see our influence as Black women shaping the future of these industries, whether it's fashion, footwear, media, etc., and how can companies ensure they are listening to our voices in these spaces?
That's for me, right?
I'm gonna throw this one at Kia and Bree.
Whew. Wow. Yeah, Black women, we are the trends. We shape culture. A lot of the things that start with us become mainstream. Narisha Willis coined the phrase, ghetto until proven fashionable, and that's gonna be the theme until the end of time. And so I think what's important, though, is the general public doesn't understand how some of these trends come from a very personal, sometimes hurtful place. I started wearing sneakers. Yes, it's fly, it's fashionable. I'm from New York, but I was an athlete. I broke my ankle. I had really bad feet issues. And the only thing I could wear was sneakers. So that's why I'm wearing sneakers, and I'm influencing so many women to do that, and that's a beautiful thing. But I think a lot of these companies take for granted what's a lot of our pain. Think about the oversized clothing. That wasn't because we had to. Hand-me-downs and all that kind of stuff was things for survival. So a lot of the trends that we set is things we didn't have a choice. Think about the gold jewelry, the grills, how we wear our hair, the way we talk. It's all a part of culture now, and I think it's amazing, but the problem is our culture is being sold back to us. We don't have ownership of a lot of these things that we start. So I think it's important for us to come together and have ownership to where we can sell them our culture, but because we're making a profit from it. I think a lot of the hardships that we face, or the fact that we don't feel like we have a say, is because we don't have ownership. So I think that's first. Companies need to get us off of the mood boards and put us in the campaigns and understand that we're not just a pretty face. We have a lot to contribute on the back end as well as the front end. So investing in us, investing in our projects, investing in our communities is extremely important. Investing in our schooling, it's so much that can be done, and there's no excuses at this point.
That was beautifully said. I couldn't agree more. I think you did ask how can we shape the future? What does that look like? I will say to that point, I think we're already doing that. I just think we're now entering a space where it's being recognized a little bit more and celebrated, which is very late. But and to that point, that question resonated with me heavily because I've had friends who have worked on projects with different brands, and they're like, yo, you were on the pitch board today, you were in the meeting, and it's okay, but they didn't contact me, I'm not in the campaign, I'm not a part of it, and I think that happens a lot, and it's to your point, it's they're taking our likeness and trying to sell it back to us, and I think that's the biggest disconnect here, and I think that point blank period, Black women are the blueprint. We have been, always will be, and it needs to be recognized in the beginning and not at the end, and I feel that always tends to happen. I think for the future, it just needs, you need to start with us and not try to wrap it up at the end. I feel there's just, even down to when it's Women's History Month, or it's, Girls Month, or it's Black History Month, suddenly we're everywhere. But what about every other day of the year, So I think it just needs to be a norm. This is the skin we're in, this is who we are, and then they try to sell it to us, they try to market it to us. So I think going forward, we are the future. We have been shaping it and we'll continue to shape it, but we need to be in these spaces. We need people to invest in us. We need people to, advocate for us in these spaces. I work in a very white, male-dominated space, and it's a battle every day trying to put on this face and, show up and do 10 times the work that my colleagues are doing just to be, respected. So I think we need to get to a point where we're respected and just seen for the work that we do and not, again, on the later end, because, again, we are the blueprint, so.
Just 3 things real quick. I 100% agree with everything that was said, but I also think, number one, as consumers, Black consumers spend per capita the most amount across beauty and fashion than all other races combined in this country. We have to understand the power of our dollar. We have to understand what it means and what we're buying. And if a company does not resonate with our values, keep your money. Go somewhere where you are valued. We have to take ownership and onus of our own agency, right? Number 2, we have to know our history. We have to know our storytellers. This woman right here, that's April Walker. April Walker is the reason why we wear jeans the way we do. We need to give them their flowers, and we need to learn about them and learn their stories so that we can continue their legacies, right? Number 3, stop being afraid to build it yourself. If you see a need, we're not built to be comfortable, guys. That's not going to impact. We're built to go beyond our comfort. So it's time for you to build it yourself. If you see it, you don't see it anywhere, build it yourself. Take a shot. People will help you, right? I started C&K in 2016 with 0 followers, and I had no clue what I was doing. It grew into a $100,000 a year company, $300,000 a year company, right? Just because we found the community, we saw this niche. Put your dreams to work. It's not all on these brands to do for us. It's time for us to start doing for ourselves.
You're good. So for the sake of time, because we want to open it up to y'all for Q&A, I'm going to close out with, in a world where divisions often define the narrative, how can we create stronger, more united communities and break down the barriers of competition or isolation to show the power of truly being better together?
Sorry. I think it just starts with more collaboration, and I think it starts with us. I think it starts with leaning to your point, just like looking around you, not trying to go up, but just building within your community and within your space. At the end of the day, you will not get it alone. You cannot get to whatever you're seeking and whatever you're trying to reach alone. So you need community, you need your people, and it's important to identify who you have with you. And a lot of times it's the people around you, or it's people in spaces like this and communities like this, and we need more of that. So I think in order for us to even grow and propel forward is to start with each other. And to your point, we can't always look for these brands to give us the cosign, to give us the approval, to give us the investments. So sometimes it is your colleague or your best friend or whoever, your neighbor. Just look around you, because that's where it starts a lot of times. And also, but first look inward. Look inward and get in tune with yourself, get in tune with what you want to do and who you are, and then seek out people who have the same goals, the same dreams, the same desires as you do, and just build forward.
This is a safe space, right? So I think, and when I say this, I'm speaking to myself as well. And I think Black women, we have to humble ourselves and ask for help. I think we're raised in a situation, a lot of us are raised in a situation to be hyper independent, self-sufficient, and we've thrived. We have accomplished amazing things on our own. But in order for us to ascend and to reach true potential, we gotta ask for help. You know, I feel like this is the season of partnership, of collaboration, of looking around to see, like, just asking for help. Like, it's so hard, isn't it? Like, that's the hardest thing to do, is to ask for help. And, you know, there are so many things that I wanna accomplish. I want my own shoe. I wanna, you know, have my own production company. I wanna continue Sneaker Fiends and beyond and continue to highlight women, but I know I can't do that on my own. So I humbly ask for help. If there's anybody out there that knows somebody, let's connect. Let's see if there's alignment. I need help, and I'm willing to collaborate and help anybody out there that needs my help.
I think, so two things. One, we have to get rid of like this notion of the queen bee syndrome. And that was something that I learned in college. I had a professor take me down to Johnson C. Smith University, and she did a whole symposium on that. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time. And for those who may not be aware, is, you know, the idea of, okay, we work in a white corporation, it's only two of us, it can't be two of us, right? So if we both are in the room, I'm gonna say far away from you, because I don't want them thinking, you know, anything like that we're close. And we see each other as competition. And I think, you know, the younger generations are doing a better job at being more receptive and supporting each other, but it still exists. And so we have to recognize that, you know, that's not the way to go. And then secondly, I mean, you need to be the change you want to see, right? Like, especially if you work for a corporation. For me, I thought I had the dream job at Tiffany. I was director of PR, working on campaigns. That I could be able to be in rooms and have more opportunity to, you know, break down those barriers and access to entry. So yeah, be the change you want to see.
All right, so questions. Who has their first question? Anybody got some questions for us? You just look. Okay.
Thank you. Questions? I know somebody got a question over here.
Hi, everyone. I guess my question here today is, what sort of empowering words or next steps would you give the audience to ensure that we show up and show out in the spaces that we're deficient in? I know you guys have been giving a lot of tips and tricks, but what are some like direct calls to action and so that when we leave here, people will actually go out and do the work?
Does anybody have an information card on their phone, a digital information card where people can scan and access your socials and your email and all the things? That's step number one. I met so-and-so, and then I have no longer than 3 to 4 days to send them an email. Usually I try to do it that night when I get back to the hotel, but sometimes I'll be tired. So make it a point to not only make yourself incredibly accessible and go and meet people. I'll challenge you to go and meet 5 to 10 people right when we leave this room and connect and see if you guys vibe. But number 2, set a plan of action for yourself to follow up. So much of the battle is lost because we just don't follow up. Because we're set up in places to succeed, and we don't do the due diligence on our end. I know I've had to buy my cents many times, and now I don't no more, right? So I think those are 2 actionable steps, in my personal opinion, that you can take from this room right now.
Make it your lock screen. Like, take a screenshot of it and then make it your lock screen. That's what I like to do. I like to do with that.
Y'all can hear him?
Thank you all for the nuggets and gems that you dropped up there. I really appreciate it. The whole over-mentored and underfunded and under-sponsored Can you talk or unpack a little bit of, or distinguish the difference between mentorship, sponsorship, and how you go about solidifying a sponsor, or do you take your mentor and kind of move them into a sponsored situation? Thank you.
Sure. I think, again, like a mentor, right, is someone that they don't have to be in your same industry, your same line of work, right? Like they can just kind of give you advice and guidance, right? Your family, friends, old coworkers can all be your mentors. Sponsors are a little bit more pointed in terms of helping to kind of advance the opportunity or support your advancement. So for me personally, when I was at my former company, I didn't really know that there would be an opportunity for me to go into, the job that I'm in now. I'm not formally in HR, but because there was recognition of the transferable skills I had, and, a lot of the achievements that I did with last projects, there were other people in the room. So I would encourage you to think through, okay, who can you identify that can be a champion for where you want to be. Those are kind of going to be the people that are the key decision makers, and they're oftentimes people that you have never had conversations with.
If you're talking from like an investor/mentor perspective, I think one thing that I have learned on this investor journey is you have to have very clear distinctions and very clear buckets. Mentor, investor, right? You're going to need mentors. If you're building a company, you're building something official, you're going to need a board of directors. You're going to need an advisory board. Those are your mentors. Those are the people who have been pouring into you for free, giving you knowledge, making connections for you, all of the things, taking time out of their day to talk to you. Those are people who will advise you. But again, you can't take everybody's advice because everybody hasn't been where you're trying to go, right? So very clear distinctions between someone who provides a mentor relationship that could potentially advise you on a higher level in your company, and then investors. These are people who have the capital and the means to keep your dream afloat and keep your dream going. Sometimes they commingle, sometimes they offer a little bit more. I always tell people, like, if you're looking to take somebody's money, that can't be the only thing that's on the table for them. That can't be the only thing that they bring. They got to bring a relationship. They got to bring some knowledge in a place that you're lacking. But that, again, goes back to ourselves. We have to be really, really honest about where we are and about our capacity. Investors appreciate you being honest. Me personally, I hate spreadsheets. I hate doing taxes. I'm not good at it. And I'm going to be honest, so anybody who has a financial background, holler at me if you want to be an investor, because I don't like doing that, right? You got to be very, very clear about what you lack and what you're looking for in someone who is also giving you their money, because guess what? They want a return. All money ain't good money. I know you guys heard that in a previous session, but it's very, very true. If someone does not align with the goal of your business and the lifeline of your business and what you want to achieve, they still want their money back, right? So you have to get really clear about what you desire and make sure that that check aligns with where you're trying to go.
How many of you are interested or currently work for a company that you want to grow in, whether you see yourself getting a promotion in the next, okay, quite a few people. How many people have had skip level conversations? Okay. Continue to do that. That's one of the best forms of getting a sponsorship too, is, and you can do that in a tasteful way without feeling like you're undermining, your current supervisor, but maintaining those relationships with other individuals that are in key strategic or stakeholders in the company outside of the manager you report directly to is another way of, getting that advocacy and sponsorship.
This will be our final question.
Thank you, ladies. This was excellent. Keep inspiring, doing all the great things you're doing. Just real easy question. What would you tell your younger self knowing what you know today?
I think the number one thing I would tell myself is like, just to get out of your head. I struggle with imposter syndrome so much. I've struggled with self-doubt, low self-esteem, the whole thing. And like, if I were able to tell my younger self anything, it would just to be like, to just let it go, just breathe. Like, I'm always just overthinking everything, overthinking my actions, everything I do. Also, even like in work and friendships, I realize I've been a person that's always considering others before myself. And I've suffered on that side within relationships, within work, within opportunities. So I think I would tell my younger self to just relax and just put yourself first and trust yourself. I think I'm still working on that daily, but I think, again, to my point earlier, like, the minute you get in tune with yourself and you're really aligned with who you are, I mean, that's a journey in itself throughout your entire life for sure. But at some point, I think you reach somewhere in your life where you're like, you know who you are, and no one could tell you otherwise. And I feel like I'm just hitting that mark. So to my younger self, it would just be to love yourself and trust yourself and excuse my language, but fuck them. Just like, for real.
Yeah, I agree. Bet on yourself. You know, I think I've definitely got in my own head and thought things needed to be done in a very linear fashion when I was just starting out. But, you know, that's what life is for. I think it's actually more important to make mistakes in order to grow and evolve. So, but ultimately, you know, bet on yourself.
I saw this quote and it resonated with me. It's the day you eat the fruit is not the day you plant the seed. And I think that's a tattoo. Okay. All right. For you. But to be honest with you, I feel like as my younger self was very impatient. I was very impatient, and I didn't have a lot of respect for process and what it takes to actually build something substantial. I wanted it right away. And as we all can attest, the food from the microwave doesn't taste nearly as good as the food from the oven, right? So I think I would really remind myself, like, good things take time. And I know it's irritating, and sometimes you don't feel like you're where you should be, but you're right where you need to be. Because 9 times out of 10, if you were where you wanted to be, you wouldn't be able to sustain it. So that's what I would tell younger me.
I probably would just tell her to keep going. I've always been like really unique and like on my own path and own journey. And as a kid, that can be a bit discouraging because, you know, you want to wear what all the other kids are wearing. You want to do what all the other kids are doing. So I kind of would just kind of affirm her path. Like, you're on your own journey. Like, be yourself. And everything's going to work out.
I want to build on that too. I would tell my younger self that maximize on your youth. I feel like when you're young, like, it's a lot of times that, like, we're doing things, or we might be like clicked up, like, oh, these are my friends, like, but then as you get older, you start seeing the people that you went to school with, or the people that you had networks with that you probably overlooked. Those people could have been a connection that you could be working with right now, but because you didn't build on that then, it's a little harder now. So I would definitely say maximize on your youth. You have time. Stay disciplined. Work ethic is everything, because as you get older, sometimes your work ethic can you'll outdo other people just off of that. So I would definitely say that.
Can we get another round of applause for not only our panelists, but our moderator, and for all of y'all for being such good audience members? Love, thank y'all.
Thank y'all.
We're gonna head to the auditorium. There's another session starting in the auditorium at 2:30, so please make y'all's way there.